including the growers, researchers, technology creators. In addition, feedback loops, yes, they're equally important in order to ensure that these newly developed technologies are effective and meet the needs of the end users, that is, the growers. In short, ladies and gentlemen, GrainFox believes in innovation through collaboration. With that, without taking much time, I would now like to introduce Shaden Akeson. He's the head of investments and innovation at the state of North Dakota. Shaden directly oversees strategic direction and execution of the North Dakota Development Fund, Lift and Innovate ND, with the objective of creating ROI for the state, local businesses, key stakeholders, and the funds themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Shaden from the North Dakota Department of Commerce.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. Energy in the room at 8 a.m. on Friday is great. Super thankful to GrainFox. They've done it again. They've partnered with our neighbors to the north, brought in a tremendous group of startups. Really fantastic, and really excited to hear from that group of startups this morning. Got a teaser yesterday. Going to have a little bit longer pitch session this morning. I'm excited to hear about the advancements in AgTech that's happening in Canada today. So why is this important? Why are we here? Well, we're here to facilitate the connections that are needed to advance the technology of the future today. And when I was asked to welcome this group, I was asked to talk a little bit about what North Dakota is working on. And most recently, what North Dakota is working on was a trade mission in Japan. The governor's office, in combination with the universities, stakeholders in private business, etc., went to Japan. Japan is the size of North and South Dakota, has 126 million people as their population. They import 80% of their calories. 100% of their energy, of their oil and gas is also imported. While that mission was in Japan, a missile was fired over Japan. Japan doesn't have any of their own defense missiles. Those missiles come from North Dakota, from Minot. So why is this important? The energy security, the egg security, the global security that comes from North Dakota helps around the world. In order for us to continue that egg and energy security, we have to partner with folks globally. We have to partner with our neighbors to the north to commercialize the technology of the future today. And I strongly believe that in the next couple of years, we're going to see many of the companies that we're going to hear from today have their technology deployed at the GrainFox Innovation Center in Castleton. And I'm excited to hear from you guys, excited for the partnerships and collaborations that are going to come out of this morning, and look forward to hearing from the companies and the other partners in the room. Thank you.
Thank you for spending your morning with us and sharing all those insights. All right, so let's dive into the pitch session this morning. And before we proceed, I'd like to inform you all, the participants already know it, but the pitches will go for 4 minutes and we'll have time for a question or two. If you have any more questions, you can always connect with the speakers after the pitch session ends. And before we proceed, I'd like to tell you that this session is being recorded because a lot of the GrainFox audience was super excited, but unfortunately could not make it to the event. So just a heads up for that. So, without further ado, this will be the sequence for our pitches. And so, the first startup I'd like to invite on stage is Bioform.
Good morning. When was the first time that you heard about the impact that plastic waste is having on our oceans? I know for me it's been a while, and I feel guilty every time I forget to bring my lunch to the office and I end up using a plastic bowl and spoon. Worldwide, only 9% of plastic waste is recycled. So why haven't we been able to solve this problem yet? A huge part of the answer to that question is around cost, and that's where Bioform can help. My name is Miranda Aldrich, and I'm the Chief Business Officer at Bioform, where our mission is to use the world's most regenerative materials to sustainably eliminate plastic waste. Bioform's co-founders, Drs. Jordan McKenzie and Mark Martinez, are world world-renowned experts in the fields of fluid dynamics and material sciences. Their core innovations form the foundation of Bioform. And then Jordan, our CEO, is surrounded by an experienced management team who bring decades of business and operational experience. Our material is comprised of kelp, wood fiber, and water, natural materials found in abundance around the globe. And then our process is inspired by the humble spider, who uses a reaction between an acid and a protein to form a material, dragline silk, that's many times stronger than steel by weight. Our patented process is differentiated not only by our unique chemistry and physical processes, but also by the ability that we have to leverage existing underutilized paper-making infrastructure to produce large amounts of material at extremely favorable unit economics that allow us to compete with traditional plastics. The material that we produce at Bioform is actually a film, like you can see here. And as is the case with many plastics, this film can either be used directly, or it can be formed to create rigid shapes like what you see here. You can imagine the vast potential in terms of different applications for this type of material. We picked out 2 initial applications to demonstrate those 2 uses of our material. The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that 2.5 million tons of agricultural mulch alone are used and then either burned or sent to the landfill every year. This represents a $5.3 billion market in 2022. Rigid food packaging is a $194 billion global market. And within that space, we're looking initially at coffee lids, which are a huge challenge from a sustainability perspective, and a $3 billion market in their own right. Bioform is taking a phased approach to addressing the huge opportunity that we see before us. Initially, we're looking to manufacture in what we're calling a commercial demonstration facility. But as a materials science company, we see ourselves continually innovating and developing a platform that we can then license to production partners globally. Imagine a world where that cup and spoon that I mentioned earlier can be dropped into the compost to nourish the next generation of crops. We're seeking $16 million through our Series A funding round to build out our commercial demonstration facility and to fund the expansion of our sales, marketing, and R&D teams over the next couple of years. Bioform represents one of the most significant materials enhancements of the 21st century. We'd love to partner with any of you who are interested on this journey, and I welcome you to come and find me if you'd like to hear more details.
Do we have any questions in the house? Yes.
Would you be able to elaborate on what you meant a little bit more on using underutilized paper infrastructure?
Absolutely. So people have been making paper for literally thousands of years, and there's a lot of research and development that's gone into how to do that quickly, reliably, cost effectively. And if you think about that process, it starts with what's called a head box that traditionally pulp and water slurry comes out of. So Bioform's machine is a replacement for that head box. And then everything that comes downstream from that in terms of pressing, drying, rolling, we can actually leverage with our material. There's different settings that need to be used. But as we're building out our CDF, we're buying machinery that exists today off the shelf from paper-making manufacturers. And then into the future, we're imagining that we'll be able to work with people that actually have sort of 10-meter wide paper-making machines to produce our material in those facilities.
What sort of organizations are you looking to partner with?
So we have really 2 asks at the moment. We're looking to partner with investors who are potentially interested in joining our round. And we are also very interested in partnering with growers who use mulch today or are interested in sort of novel applications of mulch. I was hearing yesterday about some applications for germination of corn that I thought might be very interesting in the Midwest. So some of those are sort of at the discovery stage right now. The kind of more traditional black mulch is something we're pretty advanced with field trials at the University of British Columbia with right now. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bioform. Up next, I'd like to invite GrainFox.
We'll do things different stand on this side. Good morning. My name is Mark Lepp. I'm the founder and CEO of GrainFox. What we do is help farmers manage their farm well solutions by taking their grain from the bin to the bank. So the problem that we're solving, think about this. In North America, there's more than 2 million farmers that get inundated daily by market noise, whether it's cash prices or just general information. And the questions that they have is, what do I do? When should I sell? How much should I sell? What's the best price for? So as we launched GrainFox, we did extensive research both in Canada and the US. And the question we asked is, where do you get your grain strategies from? By far, the number one place that farmers get their advice from is grain buyers. So think about that. You got all this information that you're just flooded with on a daily basis. The number one place you get your recommendations from is your grain buyer. That doesn't exactly give you an unbiased recommendation that is strategic for your operation. So what we've done, we've been in business for 20 years helping farmers with understanding that market noise and bringing the market information to them. So what we're doing with GrainFox is we're bringing all of our expertise and bringing it to our platform and bringing machine learning into it so that we can bring to each farmer specific market recommendations based on the dynamics of their farm. So if you think about all the things that make a farm tick, whether it's risk tolerance, who you like to sell to, your portfolio of crops that you're growing. The interesting thing, the really fun part that we've done in our smart plan, when you think about the market intelligence side, if you get a newsletter today, your farmers that you're working with get a newsletter that, let's say you're growing 4 crops, the recommendations on each crop are specific for that crop and not relative to anything else in your portfolio, and for sure not relative to your farm. So we use machine learning on 2 sides for market intelligence, so that we can do a better job of making recommendations, and also bring that portfolio approach to the farm wealth, and then also marrying in all the things that make a farm tick, and bringing those strategic recommendations to them. So we'll say, Ryan, you should sell 20% of your corn on November 21st for this price, and here's your list of buyers that are the best opportunity for you. So how do we do that? Our algorithm integrates, analyzes, and then reports. And I already talked about this, but I just want to give you a quick visual of how that works. So we take all of our information from the market insights, all that noise that's out there. The next that we take all of our historical information that's available both from us, but also in the marketplace. Then the third part is we take that producer-driven data and marry all that in together to provide strategic plans for the farm. So I'm going to show you this here. One of the really exciting things from our smart plan is that we're outperforming the historical market. I just showed you the last 2 years. In Canada, we make recommendations on 18 different crops for our producers. So what I want to show here is the difference in the volatility of the crop and how we're still able to perform. In 2020, we had a normal range of prices over that crop year for farmers, and in 2021, the volatility was extreme, and that's continued into 2022. So compared to the average selling price in 2020 and these 2 crops, on average, we had a 20% return. We were able to recommend selling the crops at a 20% increase compared to the average. And then when we look at extreme volatility, we're still at a 7% increase given that wide range of prices. So we're really excited about that, and then we can bring that to our customers. So what I'm here for today, we're looking to raise $10 million to continue on our journey. We're going to be expanding by making acquisitions in the US. What we're looking for is companies that have a user base that we can bring onto our platform, but also expertise in different commodities that we currently don't do markets in, so that we can use their expertise to train our algorithms to expand into crops like sorghum, cotton, etc., and allow us to expand. So thank you for your time. Love to talk to you about our program and what we're doing. Scott asked if I was doing a demo here today, and I said, I only have 4 minutes, and then I was reminded about the exchange rate, and he said, actually, I have 3.5 minutes. So, thanks for your time. you hear me?
Oh, I can leave mine.
We have 4 different levels of service that we offer to growers. The intro level with a basic free, and then we move it all the way up. Our smart plan that I talked about is at $200 a month is how we charge for that.
And is it an annual subscription, or is it just a growing season subscription, or?
It's per month. So what we've been in business for 20 years, and we were a consulting business before, and we used to charge by the acre, and now we've really dropped our price down. Our average price used to be $14,000 a year, and we've dropped that down for a better product at $200 a month. And sometimes a subscription model, like where they're locked in, is a barrier to entry, and we're like, just try it, $200 a month, you can put any time, and we're having great success with that.
Will your existing farm customers be transitioned into the GrainFox system?
Yes, all of our customers today are on GrainFox, and our plan is to transition from that handheld model to more of a customer success model. So if they want to talk to a human, we still will have that, but it will be for additional cost. Thank you. I'll talk to you again later.
Up next, I'd like to invite Livestock water recycling.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Doug Laird. I'm the CEO at Livestock Water Recycling, and we love manure. We love manure because it never stops, and there's a lot of it. It contains incredible nutrient value as well as energy value. One dairy cow can make 20,000+ gallons a year in associated liquid and manure. The U.S. alone has 9 million dairy cows. That's a lot of manure. USDA estimates livestock will produce 1.4 billion tons of manure every year in the U.S. So what do? We take manure and we change it back into high-value nutrients through a solid fertilizer, a liquid fertilizer, reusable water, and that solid fertilizer can also be fuel for renewable natural gas. We also capture data at every point in our stage, and we use that for regulatory, analytical, and operational purposes. Our systems come in 2 configurations and 5 different sizes, from a truck wash, a livestock truck wash in Indiana, all the way up to large installations on big dairies and renewable natural gas sites. We're scalable, and we know how to deal with volume. What do? We use a proprietary mechanical and chemical process to produce a solid. Again, that contains most of the phosphorus in the manure, a liquid nutrient which have most of the inorganic nitrogen, and water, which can be reused back on the dairies and farms that we operate on. Again, we love to capture data. It helps optimize our systems. We do it real time back to our operations center in Calgary. Our systems can be operated from an iPad on farm, and we continue to move this part of our program forward because it's very important. We touch a lot of manure and a lot of nutrients passing through our systems. This is a great case study. Jay calls himself an entrepreneur, and we were more than happy to rip that title off. Jay installed this in 2015 rather than spending $1 million on a new lagoon, and we're so glad he did, because he doubled his herd size, his crop yields went up, his nitrogen balance on his land came into balance, and he sells Bucky Bloom to local garden centers and hemp growers, and he'll also be selling the solids to a renewable digester down the road. So he has shown every part of value we can generate out of our systems and how he's managed that on his farm. He uses the water and the first wave liquid in his dairy flush too. So it's been a great experience for that, and he's not the only one where it installed that. When it comes to RNG, we can go on the front of the project in a hub and spoke model where we concentrate up that volatile solid and help individual farms manage that nutrient. And we can go on the back end of a digester. If it's a manure-weighted digester, you still have to process some of that manure coming out of the back. We're looking at a digester in Wisconsin where they have a phosphorus limit in the area, so they have to get the phosphorus in that stream down to 60%. We have to capture that for them and move that phosphorus out of county. We're really happy with this. This is a Washington State dairy where we are now going to be generating carbon credits for them. Not only are we helping them manage their nutrients on farm, and through our first wave system, creating that solid and liquid. By installing this, they are generating 10,000 ton credits a year, and they'll be selling those into California. We've been doing this a while. We'll be through 20+ operating systems into the new year. We're across the U.S. in various installation sizes. not just again in dairy, but across various livestock operations. And we're also international. So we have an installation in Lebanon. Naturally, you pick that as your first destination internationally. And Northern Ireland, which is having a huge, like the rest of Europe, a huge nutrient issue in terms of not only adding livestock, but keeping the livestock they have on farm. We use dealers and distributors when we're looking international, so we continue to grow that footprint. Long-term growth, call that kind of a lazy hockey stick. But we think we have a $2.4 billion addressable market when we look at farms, dairy operation, food processing of a certain size. We can go through a lot of the key differentiators after my talk here, because I'm probably already through time, but we do high volume nutrient separation really well. We have the most installations in the market, we have the most runtime, we have the most experience when it comes to this. This sort of separation of nutrient, management of nutrient from manure is relatively new, frankly. We've been separating and dealing with manure for obviously hundreds of years, but to be able to precisely apply that, separate your phosphorus from your nitrogen, is something that's going to be become a necessity, not just an option. And our founders have 20 years of wastewater experience. We'll be raising $20 million to continue to grow our platform, our R&D, and our international sales presence. So look forward to telling you more about our entrepreneurs and come get on the LWR journey. Thank you.
Questions? What's the hardest part for your customers to get over when you're doing the sale? What's like the sticky part of the sales process?
Yeah, it's good. It can be different at different type of livestock operations. Say in the U.S., as we get into more hog related, the design of the barns is called a deep pit. So the hogs sit up on top of grates really, and the manure goes down into a pit, and that either hardens or sits there over time. So there's two things. There's a logistic challenge, as well as they don't get a CI score like the dairy companies do to get credit for renewable natural gas. So there is a logistic and operational challenge in inserting yourself to that sort of, as well as they don't maybe have another value stream as strong as say dairy. In a dairy farm, it comes down to that value proposition. If they have enough land, traditionally farmers in dairy banks would say, yep, go get more land, then you get more cows, then you get more land, and you get more cows. So that cycle is stopping because it's expensive and doesn't necessarily work. So we're changing process and habits. There's often an intergenerational challenge in terms of how people want to advance that way. Unfortunately for some of our clients, regulation and nutrient overload is coming our way to help change some of those decisions. And then when we go to renewable natural gas projects, we deal with, I think, probably about 10 different developers and financiers. A lot of them haven't picked their design yet. They're doing one operation over here, it's a little bit different, and one over here, it's a little bit different. It's quite new in terms of dealing with that volume of waste coming through. So that's a different value proposition. That's where our experience comes in terms of 10 plus years of operational history. Is that can't stop. You have to make a lot of gas, you need a lot of manure, and it can't stop. So it's all slightly a little bit different. Sales cycles aren't quick. The quickest one we had was our farm in Lebanon. I'd love to tell you about that story because it's a great family story. The father made all his money through being the sole exporter of Cuban cigars to everywhere else in the world but the United States. So, but they were under pressure from the local government because they were putting the manure back into the local river, and they lost all their crop access from the Syrian war. So they had to figure out how to grow crops on their land and return that to their system. So it's different for different customers.
And real quick, who do you look to partner with besides investors?
Right now, it would be corporate. Would be either on the carbon side. We see a lot of initiative we can help with there, and the RNG side, and then down into the verticals of different food processing and operations that we can actually help out with their facilities. All right. Thank you.
Well, surely hearing about manure and coffee does not go that well. Thank you, Livestock Water Recycling. Up next, we'll hear from Neupeak.
Hi everyone, I'm Anshul and I'm with Neupeak Robotics. Today, agriculture is facing a huge crisis. Over 70% of farmers cannot find enough people to work on their farms. And the people that we do have working on our farms today, about 90% of them are migrant workers that are coming in from countries like Mexico. The farmer has to pay for their flight, their food, their accommodation, everything else that comes in between to have a human being stay at your farm for a few months of the year. It's a huge problem and farmers hate dealing with it. And this problem is especially bad for strawberries because they are one of the most labor-intensive fruits you can pick. So much so that today, more than half of the total revenue of a typical strawberry farmer goes into making people pick fruits that he's growing himself. And this problem only gets worse over time. So much so that today, these farmers are choosing to let their crops rot on the fields than have human workers go pick through them because human workers are just that expensive. Last year, over $3 billion were spent just in North America to pick every single fruit, strawberry that we bought at a store. And it's a story that you will see repeated across the industry, be it tomatoes, raspberries, cucumbers, you name it. We think we have the right solution to this problem, and it is our fleet of fully autonomous, should the video be playing here? Oh. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I think this is not even on presentation. No. Do you think it's powerful? I can just. Oh, yeah, this is the presentation. I guess the videos will play. Well, this is more of a reason for you to come talk to me after. I will show you the videos.
Sorry for the technology issues.
Well, believe me, this is impressive. So, basically, you can see the video here. You will see the video of the robot picking strawberries on an outdoor farm. And the spiel I give here when the video is playing is that you can see the robot picking during the daytime. And then I also say that the robot can pick during the nighttime because we have built some of the most cutting-edge advances in artificial intelligence baked into our robot. So they are light agnostic. They can work at night. And the benefit of picking at night is that when you pick fruits at night, they are firmer and they can last longer. So they can last up to twice as long on the shelf than fruits that are picked by humans during daytime. So that's a huge advantage that we give farmers who work with us. And the approach we're taking with this is that we are offering fruit picking as a service, where we charge a fixed price for every pound of strawberries picked by the robot. And we don't ask farmers to put any upfront investment to bring these robots onto their farms. In addition to this, we also give them added benefits like a precise crop health monitoring that allows them to be more proactive when there are problems in the crop, rather than be reactive when problems are already spread on the farm. Okay, well, we'll go to the next slide. So here I talk about how the animations are not playing, but we are not trying to make a strawberry picking robot. The whole purpose of making this robot is to make a general purpose labor automation platform. And what that means is that we are making and building every core component of our technology from ground up. This includes designing and manufacturing our own humanoid robotic arms. And what's special about these arms is that they have the same amount of joints that you will find in a human arm and about the same reach as well. So these arms have the same dexterity as a human arm, and they can typically perform pretty much any task that a human is capable of. Our Fruit Sense AI works faster and better than humans. It can detect 4 different grades of ripeness of strawberries, and has universal salt gripper that can pick more than just strawberries, and a self-driving AI that's fully autonomous, and it can work not just in outdoor fields, but even in indoor greenhouses where GPS does not work. So because of this unique approach we have taken, we can think beyond just strawberries. So strawberries are our first stepping stone. That's the first thing we are doing. but we can follow that up soon with other crops as well, like cucumbers, tomatoes, and eventually automating all manual labor on the farm. And I don't just talk the talk, we walk the talk as well, which I would have if the presentation was working properly. So the video won't play. But here you can see, in this video you will see the robot picking strawberries in an indoor greenhouse. And from what we know, we are one of the world's first robotic platforms that's capable of moving seamlessly from outdoor fields where strawberries are kind of growing at this level to indoor greenhouses where strawberries are growing on chest level. It's a big challenge for robotics typically, and you need completely different configurations of robots to work in these. But our robot can work without any hardware changes. Not only that, in this video you would have seen it picking tomatoes with the same robot hardware that we saw picking strawberries, thus showing the flexibility and the intelligence that we have baked into our hardware, and showing that we can scale up pretty fast once we have matured the hardware. And we have a great team that's doing this. I'm an engineering physicist, technical questions are welcome. I have several patents in robotics and machine vision. In my previous job, I worked as lead design engineer for a medical device company, where I got the experience of building a team from ground up and launching 2 products across 15 hospitals in North America, and getting the experience of launching safety critical systems, robotics, in surgery rooms. And our director of sales and our co-founder CTO, both of them have over 20 years of experience deploying complex technologies like hydrogen deployment across North America. So we believe we have the right mix of magic and tech to solve one of the biggest challenges that's facing the world today. How do we feed the 11 billion people we will have in the world in the next 30 years? So if you believe in our vision and our mission, please come help us feed the future. Thank you.
I assume it's a battery powered.
It is, yes, it's fully electric. And the batteries typically last about 8 hours on a single charge. And they're hot swappable, so the idea is that you can just swap the battery out and put the new battery in, so the robots can work continuously for 24 hours without needing to stop at any time.
How did you take grower feedback into kind of the creation process of this?
Everything was informed by grower feedback. In fact, to be honest with you, we weren't even making strawberry picking robots when we started with this. We were making burger flipping and packaging robots initially. And then someone told us we should talk to a few strawberry farmers because they needed to use some robotic arms. We called about 18 farmers in a day. And pretty much all of them told us, please show up our farms and show us this thing. We need this. And that's when we knew this was the right answer. And since then, we have, all the development has happened during pilots that we conducted with farmers. So very close collaboration with local farmers, where we take feedback from them, and every step of the way, the robot was working on the farms with their feedback.
Is your customer acquisition straight to the growers, or are you working through other consortiums or groups?
Yeah, typically the approach we take is that if we want to expand into a new region, we talk to the Growers Association in the region, and usually they are the ones that connect us with really forward-looking growers that are looking to invest and actually take new technologies in and mentor people like us. So it has been a very successful approach so far. But the good thing about this business is that the sales job here is extremely easy. I never have to convince a farmer that this is something they need. They already know this is something they need. All I have to convince them is that this thing works and it's actually real, and they don't have to be scared about it. Thank you.
Again, apologies for that technology glitch, but I must mention that yesterday we heard from one of the growers from Grand Farms Grower Advisory Board who was interested in learning if this robot can help her with harvesting the African eggplant. So I'm going to get you connected with that person. With that, let's move on to our next pitch, Psigryph Incorporation.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sean Thompson, co-founder and CEO of Psigryph, a food tech company for health. So just a quick background on myself. I have a long history in biopharmaceuticals, done a number of deals. I was executive at a company that exited for $500 million 9 years ago. And I fell in love with this technology as soon as I saw it. And I think by the end of this presentation, you'll be in love with it also. So nitrous oxide is 300 times more potent at heating the earth than carbon dioxide. So if you look at the pie chart on the left, that little slice of nitrous oxide is a bigger problem than all that carbon. And a big source of this nitrous oxide is agriculture. So in our efforts to grow protein in animals and plants, humans put 8 million metric tons of nitrous oxide into the atmosphere every year. And you'll also notice half comes from plants, half comes from animals. So if we switch from animal protein to plant protein, it doesn't solve this problem. We needed a solution, and Psigryph has such a solution. So the world's non-protein nitrogen market is about $2 billion. The problem is the majority of the nitrogen content is not absorbed by the animals. They excrete it out and it pollutes the soil and provides the feedstock to produce nitrous oxide. So this problem is generally called bioavailability. It's the same problem we have in pharma with delivering drugs. And so if you can get your molecule of interest across that cell membrane efficiently, you solve this problem. And you can solve this problem as it pertains to pesticides, fertilizers, animal health, human health. So it's a gigantic problem. Our solution is called Nanopact. I liken it to UPS for living cells. So we're the packaging material that goes around molecular cargo and delivers it safely and efficiently inside the cell. And so what we're doing in agriculture is interrupting the nitrogen cycle that you see here. So the nitrogen content of the manure from animals would be greatly reduced, and your inputs into the animal would be greatly reduced as well, because we're going to take the absorption from around 15 or 20% up to 80 or 90%. And so you use less material, you get the protein gain, but you don't pollute the environment. The technology is derived from sour cherries. We grow a lot of sour cherries around the Great Lakes region, and the price has been falling over the last decade, so it's an ideal starting crop for this material. So from the sour cherries, a proprietary process is applied that was developed by my co-founder at the University of Guelph to create these nanoparticles and nanofibers. And then from there, we can attach molecules to make final products in agriculture, in food industry, and in the pharmaceutical industry. We're getting good traction from corporations. So this group on the left that are awaiting data, they've really helped us design our R&D program to solve problems that they've identified. And we have ongoing pilots at Nestle and DSM, and I believe soon to start at Cargill. We'll see. So this has been our journey. The research and development was done over a 10-year period by my co-founder. We did our consultations with big companies and then raised our seed round of $650,000 via a SAFE, and more than tripled that with government grants in Canada. And we're looking forward to launching our first product, which is a human nutraceutical, next year here in the United States, and then on to other products. So just quickly on the product that we're launching in the US, it's called Cholesterol. It is a phytonutrient-rich food powder, so we've taken phytonutrients and attached them to our nanoparticles and the powder that we're putting in capsules. Our market research conducted last year tells us we have a $200 million market in the United States alone for this product. So this is our team, and unfortunately we lost our inventor 2 months ago. So he passed away suddenly and unexpectedly, but we're rebuilding a team of his knowledge of his former students who are out in industry and still at the university. So we're raising $10 million US to scale our manufacturing, to launch Cholesterol, and drive our R&D into these other verticals as well. So this is my last slide, and I will just acknowledge all the groups that have helped us get as far as we are today. And we're nominated as one of Canada's 50 most investable clean tech ventures, and we'll find out if we get that award at the end of November. Thank you.
So how long does it take to develop your application? So outside of like human health, and animal, what's the timeline for developing something?
So the question was how long does it take to develop the animal application? So it'll be about 2 years of testing, field testing, so which we expect to start next year. Yes?
What's the shelf life on the, I guess it's like a lipid layer of some kind, right? Or-
So it's not a lipid, it's
Okay.
carbohydrates.
So what's the shelf life?
It's at least 2 years. That could change depending on the payload that we're carrying, but we've done small molecules and RNA. 2 years looks good. Thank you.
Up next, I'd like to invite Susterre.
This requires you to walk and chew gum at the same time, which is a problem. I'm Mike Culley, I'm the founder and CEO of Susterre, and we're pioneering the use of ultra-high pressure water jet technology in row crop applications. Our technology facilitates the use of no-till and cover crops by making it easier to cut through crop residue with no downforce and injecting inputs into the soil instead of on the soil. So as most of this is an educated audience, people know that by definition, no-till is underdeveloping its promise. Only about 40% of farmers are involved in no-till and cover crops. And why is that? It's difficult to deal with the residue on the field. Usually what happens is in the first season, the current technology easily cuts through the crop residue and the seed is placed at the proper depth and with the proper soil contact. Unfortunately, over the next few seasons, the residue continues to build up, and with today's technology, it no longer cuts through the residue, but it pushes the residue into the soil. That's called hairpinning. And when the seed goes in, it's no longer touching soil, but touching residue. And it gets poor germination and growth as a result. Now, we estimate that about 500 million bushels of corn and soybeans are lost each year due to hairpinning in North America. Our solution is to take an ultra-high pressure water jet. These water jets are used in industrial manufacturing to cut through metal, and they pump water at 60,000 pounds per square inch. We put them on the front of the planting mechanism, and if it can cut through metal, it can easily cut through crop residue. As a result, the seed every season is properly placed at the right depth and with the proper soil contact. So you always get the proper growth of your crops. And you avoid a situation where today farmers end up tilling their soil after 3 or 4 years because they can't handle the crop conditions. Let me just show you what this looks like in real life. You can see we've installed a new row unit on the front of this planter, and the jet is coming out pointing right at the opening wheel of the planter. As you engage the planter in the ground, the jet is going down into the ground. It creates an opening so the planter can put the seed at the proper depth. Now this year we conducted field trials with farmers in over 8 different crop conditions in 3 states and in the province of Ontario. And the results have been really exciting from what we've seen so far. On the left you see that we did a corn over corn residue trial at Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky. And about mid-season, you can see we interspaced our rows with the farmers' rows, and we saw visibly that the corn that we were planting with our system is visibly higher than the corn from the farmer. Same seed variation, same population, everything. And what we found at the end of the season is that that actually translated into about a 6% yield increase over the farmer's rows in the field. In the middle, you see we did double crop soybeans in mid-June, where we harvested the wheat one day and the very next day planted soybeans into the heavy wheat residue. About a month later, under extreme drought conditions, you can see that we had a solid emergence on our rows, but the farmer was struggling. This translated into about a 9% yield increase in this field this season. And then finally on the right in Belmont, Iowa, this is north central Iowa, we had a field with 2 seasons of corn residue plus cereal ryegrass that was about chin high when we planted, and we planted straight into it. Both the farmer and Susterre got emergence, but you can see the gaps in the farmer's emergence, and that was the hairpinning that he got from his current technology. In this field, I just got the results yesterday, we got a 12% yield increase over what he did there. So pretty exciting for what we've seen in the field. In terms of benefits, obviously I've already talked about yield increase. We suspected we would get these yield increases, and that's what we're seeing in the field. We also avoid chemical runoff. The fluid that we use in our system doesn't have to be water. It could be like a UAN 28% starter fertilizer. We actually have the capacity to take 3 inputs at one time and inject them into the soil. They won't run off into the waterways. So you don't waste your chemicals, and you avoid things like fines and other things for contamination. We also extend the planting season. Our technology works extremely well in damp residue conditions. So today, where the farmers have to wait for the residue to dry out in the morning or after rainfall, we can be out there as long as a tractor can go into the field. We can be planting anytime. And then, of course, we are moving farmers towards a state of permanent no-till farming, because they will be able to cut in any sort of residue conditions. All of this translates into a payback for the farmer that's 3 times faster than other investments that they would place into their farming operation. We closed on our first round of funding this year. We finished our patent applications, and we've done our field validation, and we're in discussions with our first distribution partner in the Mid-South. Next year, we plan to expand our distribution network, and we want to continue our field trials and also close on our first sales in 2023. We also plan to raise a large round so that we can expand our operations in North America, and we hope to be a $10 to $15 million company by 2025. And then we will start looking in the future to international and expansion and other products in our portfolio. So we're actively looking for partners. We're looking for farmer partners to continue validation. We're looking for distribution partners, and we're looking for investor partners as well. So come see me about that.
Mike, what is your gallons per acre, and does it affect planter speed?
Yeah, so a typical gallons per acre, if you have a 30-inch row width moving at 5 to 6 miles an hour, would be about 10 gallons an acre. So not a significant use of water. It's for farmers that are using starter fertilizer, we can just substitute for starter fertilizer, so you would get no increase in fluid uptake. The faster the planter goes, actually, the less water we use, because you're spreading that over time.
What would be effective? You keep the 10 gallons.
Yeah. Well, we're 10 gallons at about 60,000 pounds per square inch.
Are there any limitations to, as far as the testing, have you tried it with multiple different types of machinery, or is it?
Yeah, so it is you saw that we put row units on the planter. By definition, when you're looking at Kinsey, John Deere, whatever, they all on that toolbar have they put things in different places, so there is a slight customization in the installation, but the basic system will work on any manufacturer.
Is there a misting effect to the spray?
Misting?
Yeah, so if you're spraying in front of...
Very little, very, very little. As the closer we are to the ground, the more the stream stays concentrated, and it goes into the soil and doesn't bounce back, generally.
I think one of the points too to make is that you need no ballast to make a no-till drill, like an old drill.
Yeah, no, that's true. We could take just the conventional planter, add our system, and de facto make the farmer into a no-till farmer. A no-till farmer. And we don't need any downforce other than what's required to keep the planter on the ground. Ours just cuts through with no downforce effect. We think we're gonna prove this with an academic partner, but we think we're fracking the soil underneath. I was talking about it earlier. Sometimes when we run the jet just steady in one position, then we suddenly see bubbles coming up 10 feet away. So we know we're affecting the soil compaction underneath. We just don't know exactly how yet, but we are.
All right. Thank you, Susterre. Up next, let's invite TechBrew Robotics.
any mushroom producers in North Dakota? So that's no fungi in North Dakota. Anyway, not in Samadar either. I'm Mike Boudreau from TechBrew Robotics, CEO. We're in Samadar, BC, which is in the middle of nowhere, halfway between Vancouver and Calgary. And we're taking the pain out of mushroom harvesting and raising 20 million to cross the chasm. Labor constitutes half the cost of producing mushrooms, and it's a shitty job. So for 30 years, the industry's been looking for automation. Even in China, they're importing temporary foreign workers to do the job. It's cold, it's stinky, it's painful to actually do the job. And mushrooms grow around the clock. They double in size every 24 hours, and if you're not harvesting around the clock, you're losing yield and quality. So the solution is a robotic harvester. It goes out and finds the mushrooms and determines when they're ready to pick and proceeds to pick them very delicately. Mushrooms are easy to damage. The robot shows up for work every day, works around the clock quite happily, and it's easy to install into existing farms. So this is a video clip that this robot's been running on the farm for 3 months now, hitting the pilot target criteria. We've ran these robots for 1.5 years in our facilities, just learning about their reliability and getting the bugs out. So we're really happy with the results that we're getting. The robots can pick as well as an experienced human harvester, and it will happily work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whereas humans don't. We've entered into a pilot agreement with 30 early adopters, an international group, and the sales funnel represented by them is about just over $250 million. And as we're closing off on our pilot testing, we're discussing next steps with those folks. I built my first vision-guided robot in 1985 for the forest industry, and have gone on and done similar very tough applications in a number of industries. And our closest, well, all of our competitors pretty much are academic spin-offs. They haven't built an industrial system. They haven't built a food safe system. If you haven't built either of those, you don't know what you're in for. So, according to the gurus in the industry, we have a 2-year first mover advantage. We've only been at this 3 years. Our closest competitor has been at it 10, so I don't know what they've been doing. Because we're improving the actual productivity of the compost, we're getting 10 to 20% more yield. That has an environmental impact where we're actually having a smaller footprint for the same pound of mushrooms being produced. We do have intellectual property patent applications filed. The scent effector is the magic sauce. Mushrooms so delicate that you need to be very soft where you interact with the mushroom, but you need to be strong enough to actually break its root structure and pluck it. So there's a fair bit of art that goes into that as well. It's about a $10 billion market just for the robots. If we consider the opportunity of automating upstream and downstream and applying artificial intelligence, that could be a $50 billion market. And that's about the value of the current button mushroom market today is $50 billion in production, growing 10% a year. So we have a hybrid business model where we're selling the initial robot on a capital basis with a 50% gross margin, and then we're layering on a software subscription for the enhancements. A-team, management side, I've been at this for close to 40 years. Doug Keast, our CFO, has taken 4 tech startups public and 4 private, and the rest of the folks are long in the tooth in automation and manufacturing, companies like Samsung and Ford. And our board is similarly lean and focused. Mel O'Rourke has got over 44 years of direct industry experience. He knows everybody in the mushroom world. He says there's 50 to 100 decision makers that we need to get to sell these robots worldwide. So the sales and marketing, somebody said it was an easy job earlier. Don't need to be facetious, but And then the rest of the folks there are very deep in the finance side and business side. We have a very diverse team of 45 people from 15 countries around the world that love robotics and love mushrooms. So to date, we've raised $4.5 million in 2 equity rounds and matched that with another $4.5 million in grants. We've been named Ready to Rocket by Rocket Builders out of Vancouver. We're just finishing our pilot testing and are working on our first orders. Because we have this huge first mover advantage, we want to literally rocket into the market and maintain that. So we're raising $20 million to help start, manage the supply chain risk, which is troublesome for everybody today, and build the early robots and move solidly into market. So I'd love to have anybody that's interested to join us in this equity round. If you're not interested in that, go to YouTube, type in TechBrew, mushroom, robot, watch the video, and then share it to all your friends and family. It's super cool, it's lots of fun, and you can be a fun guy too.
We'll play the video.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Not flash mushrooms, but ones that have a much flatter surface. I'm trying to think of the names of some of them, but they're.
So like an oyster mushroom or a shiitake, yeah. So, the button mushroom industry represents about 70% of the production worldwide, so it's the biggest elephant in the room to go after. Flat surface is no problem, but we're harvesting on, these beds are basically, I have to convert to imperial here, about 4 feet wide, 100 feet long, and there's 6 shelves up to about 14 feet high. That robot can travel anywhere on there, so that density of production makes it really easy to access. A lot of these specialty mushrooms, they grow in logs or simulated logs spread around the floor, so when they get to the point where they're producing those on scale similar to this, then it would make sense to automate it. You can get a robot to all of those, but its productivity is going to be a lot lower. And these aren't cheap machines, they're $250,000 each, so, with the 2-year payback. So.
Do you see the farm design changing significantly now that you can harvest with the robot? Or are you just adapting to it?
That's a good question. We've designed, so I started talking to Christian's group 3 years ago, and they were just coming out with what's called a traveling bed design farm. So the traveling bed, that whole bed travels past the harvesting location. There's a platform that goes up and down to the right elevation of the shelves, and then the people just stand there and pick. So it's way more productive than people going to where the mushrooms are. So it's way more productive for a robot as well. It's much simpler. We just need the arm portion that you see here. There's a gantry portion that allows this robot to move anywhere along that 100 feet and any of the 6 shelves. We don't need that in the traveling bed design. So when we started the project, there was 1 farm that had that, and now there's 6 farms. So going forward, that will be the future. The farm is going to be optimized for harvesting. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your time and attention.
So that brings us to the last presentation, last but not the least. I will now invite Edgecom to proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Baid Abdurrahmi, and I'm the CEO and founder of Edgecom Energy. At Edgecom Energy, our goal is to simplify energy management for large energy consumers. So how many of you have ever received an electricity bill and paid for it? Most of you. How many of you actually know what you paid for in that electricity bill? You don't know what you're paying for, and your bill is maybe around $100. Now think of a large industrial facility. they're spending maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 times what you're spending at your house, up to $1 million or $2 million a month, and they have the same problem. They don't actually know what they're paying for. And Edgecom Energy aims to solve that problem using machine learning, IoT hardware, and our customized software. So what's the problem? Gathering and analyzing real-time energy data is very time-consuming and very expensive. You need very specialized staff and you need specialized equipment to be able to do that. This prevents large industrial facilities from saving money and reducing their emissions. This is an especially large problem in agriculture and food processing, which consumes 20% of all the fossil fuels that are used in North America. So we know that we have to go through an energy transition. In the past, electricity used to be produced at major power producing plants, gas plants, nuclear plants, and it was consumed by consumers. But now, this energy transition means that we have a distributed grid. Electricity is being produced all over the place with solar, it's being stored with energy storage and batteries, and it's being used and consumed by electric vehicles that can charge and discharge back into the grid. This means that more and more facilities have to become prosumers, and managing this new world of energy is quite a challenge. So that's not your business. Your business is to grow food or to process that food. We come in and we try to solve that problem by simplifying energy management. So what do you have to do? You have to gather data, you have to analyze that data, you have to make decisions, you have to control the facility in real time, and that leads to saving money and CO2. The market opportunity for this is huge. Whereas smaller facilities have a do-it-yourselfer, so someone who maybe starts to analyze the electricity bill and starts to understand it, it usually doesn't make sense for them to actually do much when their bills are really, really low. When your bills start to get higher, over about $100,000 a year, there's a lot of programs and government regulations that are starting to exist that allow you to reduce that cost and take advantage of these programs. When you get really large, you tend to have an energy team and you tend to have a sustainability team. So what we've targeted is we've targeted that middle ground, the people who are not do-it-yourselfers, but they're not quite large enough yet to actually have a full-on energy and sustainability team. We've highlighted 150,000 opportunities in North America, and that's a $3 billion addressable market. So how do we aim to solve this problem? Well, we've got bits and pieces of this already figured out. And we're at close to $2 million of revenue, and this is only in Ontario, Canada. We've been able to bring customers on board, such as Fiat Chrysler, 3M Canada, Loblaws, which is the largest grocery store chain in all of Canada, is using us for 50 of their grocery stores and some of their warehouses. And Royal Bank of Canada, which is Canada's biggest bank, is actually using us for their data center and for their platform. So their facilities can take advantage of this platform. So where do we come in? We have a product that helps customers actually gather their energy data. We ship them IoT devices that are plug and play, so you don't need to have electricians, you don't need to have technicians, you don't need to have any sort of energy knowledge to start gathering this data. The devices are just plug and play into your facility. We start analyzing that data using machine learning, providing real-time insights and real-time control of your facility. And then at the end of the year, you get a report that calculates how much energy you saved and how much emissions you reduced by taking advantage of these programs. So this is what our platform looks like. This is our iOS app and our web-based platform. There are other energy platforms that exist, but what we've done is we've combined the hardware, the software, and the energy regulations that exist right now in Ontario, but we're expanding that out to new jurisdictions that have similar programs to Ontario. So we have a full package for energy management. Our goal is to use distributors and electricians and other consultants to deliver this to the market. Right now what we're doing is we're directly selling to the end user, but we plan to go through channel partners to increase that. The more data that we gather from our clients, the better our platform becomes, and the more useful it actually becomes for end users. So I myself, I was an industrial energy manager for one of North America's largest plastics manufacturing facilities before starting this company. And what led me to start Edgecom Energy is that I know real-time energy data has value. At that facility, there was an event where literally water was coming into the process and going out the drain, and nobody caught that. So when you just get your electricity bill a month later, or your water bill a month later, or your gas bill a month later, that's old data already. But if you make that data real time, you'll be able to save energy and save water and save gas in real time. At that facility, $200,000 worth of water came in and went down the drain without anyone knowing about it until a month later. So that's what our platform will solve. Our CTO is a PhD from the University of Waterloo and a machine learning engineer and a data scientist. And our ask for today, we are in the middle of a $2 million raise to expand into new jurisdictions outside of the Ontario market. We're looking for collaborators to help test and develop this technology and match up our regulations with new jurisdictions that, again, have similar programs to the Ontario market. And we're also looking to acquire clients who are interested in monitoring and managing their energy consumption. Our plan is to get into 100,000 endpoints by the end of 2025, and we're well on our way to doing that. The $2 million raise will get us to the next milestone, and then a $10 million raise in 2024. This is what our revenues look like so far, and the number of endpoints that we're trying to get on our platform. So if you're interested in helping us navigate this new world of energy, come talk to me after the presentation. Thank you.
With Johnson Controls,
Yes.
that is energy management system.
Yeah, good question. So Johnson Controls is actually using our platform to supplement some parts of their platform that they haven't been able to develop. So we actually have a battery management system. So for buildings that install those Tesla power packs, we have a part of our software is able to dispatch those batteries and control those batteries. So for Johnson Controls to develop that technology would probably cost, I would guess, 100 times what it cost us. So they're actually subcontracting, and we are dispatching the batteries and microgrids at a few universities and a few Canadian federal buildings that we're managing for Johnson Controls.
What's the engagement look like with your customer post-installation?
Our engagement's actually very, very high. So 90% of our customers actually use it every single day during the times where these government regulations are important, right? So usually it tends to be during peak times where electricity prices are really spiking high. And during those months, typically during the summer, we have 90% engagement every single day. We have about 400 users on the platform. Any other question?
Question over here. Do you guys have access, like on day one, if I as the customer am using your product, do you have access to my historical data?
Yeah, so the first thing we do is we actually work with the utility. There's something called Util API that allows us to gather all the historical data. So that we backfeed into our platform. And then our IoT devices and our hardware gets up and running in 15 minutes. So one of our largest customers, actually, they're a cucumber greenhouse. Right? They make cucumbers and sweet peppers in southern Ontario. And they were up and running in 15 minutes. So we shipped these devices to them. They plugged it into their electricity meter, their water meter. Within 15 minutes, their data was uploading into our cloud so they could see real-time data. And then their historical data, it took us about a week, and we preloaded it back into the software. So they had about 7 years of consumption and then real-time consumption as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have an ideal customer profile or industry that you're targeting?
Yeah, so these guys. No, so really for us, I mean, it's I added in the opportunity slide. So if you're really small, it doesn't make sense for you, right? So if you're, just a really small, like a tiny office or a small store, it doesn't make sense for you. We found that the sweet spot is anyone who's spending over $100,000 a year. It starts to make sense for some parts of the platform. Up until the point where now, if you're a really large industrial facility, you tend to have a SCADA system and you have a process management system, so everything is already measured. But there's this sweet spot in the middle of kind of do-it-yourselfers that want to have this data, but they're large enough to want the data, but they're not large enough to go spend $1 million or $2 million and bring Siemens in and get them to install a full SCADA, right? So one of our really good customers, for example, they manufacture all the plastic bags for Walmart in Canada. It's like a father-son team, and they have a few dozen employees. they have no visibility into their operation. So they're spending about $500,000 a year on electricity. They don't know where that spend is going, they're just paying, right? So we're helping them monitor that and manage that. Yeah. That one, right? So anyone over 100K and who's not large enough to have an energy team.
So are you guys considering let's call it a light version of that, so that you have another revenue stream with the smaller companies?
Yeah, so we've gone significantly down market. So our let me bring up this slide. So you see we have different products, right? This product over here, the P-Track product, it's a peak management product. It predicts when electricity prices are spiking, and it gives them alerts to let them know that they can change their operations, or it actually controls their battery or their building automation system or whatever they have in their facility. So this one is usually for really large consumers of energy, about 500 kilowatts or more. We went down market with the monitoring product. So that monitoring product is only about $200 a month, including the hardware, the software, and stuff, like everything, to start gathering that data for one data point, right? So we've tried to go down market with that, and with the energy transition, what we're going to see is as electricity rates start to go up and energy rates generally continue to go up, a lot of small consumers are going to become large consumers later. So getting in early is really important. That cucumber farmer I mentioned, when we started working with them, they were only spending about $500,000 a year on energy, and we started doing this stuff for them. Now they're at about $50 million a year in energy. So they've grown rapidly. So getting in early is really important, and going down market is a big part of that strategy.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Edgecom. We want to make sure that we play the video for Neupeak's strawberry robotic arm. We'll save some time.
Do you want to add any further commentary to the video here? Or yeah.
Yeah, so here you can see our robots picking in an outdoor field. I will pay attention to the gripper. You will see it deforming as it's cutting the strawberry. It's a pressure-sensitive gripper. And here's the robot picking at night. And as I mentioned previously, the temperatures are cooler at night, so the strawberries last a lot longer when they are picked by the robots at night. And here's the robot picking in the greenhouse. As you can see, the configuration of picking in the greenhouse is quite different than what you have on the field. And this is something usually robotics and things will find very challenging. They will do either or, but nobody does both. And here you can see the robot picking tomatoes in an indoor greenhouse. And the reason why I keep harping on the point of like indoor greenhouse, outdoor fields is because strawberries growing in outdoor fields only last for 3 to 5 months of the year. So what does your robot do for the rest of the year? So the fact that the same robot can move indoor and outdoors means that we can keep the same hardware busy and paying its dividends for the whole year. And that allows us to reduce the payback period and therefore offer the service to the farmers instead of forcing them to buy the hardware outright, which usually is a huge expense for small farmers. Yeah, again, thank you for arranging this. Appreciate it.
Okay, so this brings us to the end of the pitch session. I really hope Grand Farm could contribute some value to your entrepreneurial journey. And once again, on behalf of Grand Farm, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Canadian Consulate and to each one of you for your time and your enthusiasm for technology. I know that in the beginning I mentioned that Grand Farm believes in innovation through collaboration, but what I accidentally missed was that Grand Farm believes in innovation through global collaboration. With that, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day ahead and drive back home safe and happy journey. Thank you.